Well, good evening. It's not like we haven't already chatted, but we'll chat again. Welcome to the Fringe, a place for community, conversation, and exploration. My name is Tiffany Detain. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the pastor of this community. I want you to know that here at the Fringe, you're already in. This is a place where you can explore the Christian faith and be a part of the community, regardless of your questions or your doubts. We've got a few announcements of things coming up, so if you're interested in connecting or learning more about the Fringe, you can fill out our connection card on the welcome table and just put it in that box there. And then on Tuesday, next week is Taco About It Tuesday, where we literally just go eat tacos and hang out. So I hope we'll see you there, 7 p.m. Fiesta Cancun, and the tacos are on us. And then our next small group gathering will be back here on Tuesday, February 10th at 7 p.m. and I hope you'll join us. We're so glad you're here. Tonight we invite you to take what you need and to ponder the rest. Let's pray. God of new beginnings, nothing is ever too far gone for you. Your love takes root in wild gardens and in restless streets. When our hearts are heavy and it feels like nothing will change, may hope rise among the dust and ruins. Inspire us with your life-giving creativity to rebuild what is broken, and help us to be a part of creating something beautifully new. Amen.
Good evening, friends. If you know this song, please feel free to sing along or just listen in.
Oriana and my pronouns are she, her. Our text tonight is Luke chapter 8, verses 40 through 56. A girl restored to life and a woman healed. On the other side of the lake, the crowds welcomed Jesus because they had been waiting for him. Then a man named Jairus.
Short.
How does it?
Jairus. You're
Jairus.
good. Go for it.
A leader of the local synagogue came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come home with him. His only daughter, who had about 12 years old, was dying. As Jesus went with him, he was surrounded by the crowds. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with the constant bleeding, and she could find no cure. Coming up behind Jesus, she touched the fringe of his robe. Immediately, the bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. Everyone denied it, and Peter said, "Master, this whole crowd is pressing up against you." But Jesus said, "Someone deliberately touched me, for I felt healing power go out from me." When the woman realized that she could not stay hidden, she began to tremble and fell to her knees in front of him. The whole crowd heard her explain why she had touched him and that she had been immediately healed. "Daughter," he said to her, "your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking to her, a messenger arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. He told him, "Your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now." But when Jesus heard what had happened, he said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just have faith, and she will be healed." When they arrived at the house, Jesus wouldn't let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, James, and the little girl's father and mother. The house was filled with people weeping and wailing, but he said, "Stop the weeping. She isn't dead, she's only asleep." But the crowd laughed at him because they all knew she had died. Then Jesus took her by the hand and said in a loud voice, "My child, get up." And at that moment her life returned, and she had immediately stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. Her parents were overwhelmed, but Jesus insisted that they not tell anyone what happened.
All right. So tonight's themes might hit close to home for some people, so just recognize that if you're in a season where you're dealing with a chronic illness or a recent loss, please take care of yourself as we are together this evening. If you've hung around the Fringe for long enough, you know we like to be real. Real about the great things that life and faith have to offer, and real about the messy, complicated life and faith that we find ourselves in. It can be really easy for us to show up in the story right when Jesus does, right at the healing. But that's only a part of the story, right? Because in order for there to be a healing, there had to be a hurt. So tonight, I'm going to try and honor that whole story, the story of a woman who lived with a chronic illness for 12 years, and the story of an urgent need for a healing that didn't and then did happen. And I'll do my best to speak about the healing and the life-giving and the resurrecting power of Jesus that is also shown in this story. Because I believe that in telling the entire story, we honor the whole story that is our messy human existence. Some of us here tonight might know all too well what it's like to live with a chronic illness. What it's like to have something that steals away parts of your life or your body, and yet still kind of lets you live this half kind of life. Chronic illnesses often fly below the radar in our culture. The symptoms are not always serious enough to go to an ER, but they may keep someone in their beds, away from social gatherings, or impair that person's ability to do the things that they once enjoyed and loved. Chronic illnesses mean lots of doctor's appointments, scans, being poked and prodded, oftentimes with no firm diagnosis or clear path to healing. And if you have health insurance, a chronic illness means meeting your deductible every year. And if you don't have health insurance, it may mean being denied access to the care that you need because you don't have the insurance to obtain it. And either way, it means watching the bills and expenses pile higher and higher and higher. And I imagine that life was much like that for the woman who was suffering from constant bleeding in our story. She had been ill for 12 years. 12 years. And we're told she spent all her money on those doctors, chasing a cure for her illness, and that no one was able to cure her from it. Her condition was chronic. She was alive, but it was a half kind of life. But our story also gives us a sense that this woman was a fighter, that there was something inside of her that kept her going, something that wouldn't allow her to give up, something that kept her faith. Despite 12 years of sickness and doctors, she still believed there must be a cure out there somewhere, and she was going to find it. Now, we don't know how she heard the news about Jesus. I kind of figure it was that well-meaning friend who always has unsolicited medical advice for those of us with chronic illnesses. She may have stopped by and said, "Have you heard about Jesus?" And maybe it perked the woman's interest. Or maybe a well-meaning family member came by and said, "I've heard news of an amazing teacher and healer." She could have been in the marketplace and just heard the buzz about Jesus. However she got that news, she decided that she was going to see for herself. So she leaves her house and she heads to the place where she had heard that Jesus would be, and it was packed. We know from other stories in Luke that well-meaning friends have lowered people through roofs to get to Jesus, that Jesus' family couldn't get inside of a room to see their own family member because crowds were always pressing in. But she was determined. And for whatever reason, I don't know why she didn't want to bother Jesus and ask for a healing directly. I kind of wonder if she saw Jairus fall down in front of Jesus, begging for him to come and heal his daughter who is actively dying. We don't know. But inside of herself, she thought, if the stories are true, if I could just touch the edge of this guy's garment, I know that I would be healed. And unlike all of the promises given by the healing medical professionals in her life, this time she was healed. It says that she knew it right away. But there was a problem. Jesus felt the power of that healing go out of him, and he wanted to know who touched him. And so, knowing it was her, the woman identifies herself trembling in fear, falling before Jesus, admitting, "I am the one who touched you, and I have been healed." And whatever fear that she had, it quickly vanished away when Jesus called her daughter and told her, "Your faith has made you well. Go in peace." And I would imagine that this woman went in peace for the first time in 12 years. But we have this other story, right? Tangled inside of this encounter, the story of a young girl who's only 12, the same number of years that the woman had been afflicted with this illness. And this young girl is actively dying. Well, Jesus stops to identify who touched him in the crowd. Can you imagine the impatience of Jairus as he's watching Jesus make a mountain out of a molehill? Who touched you? Well, his precious daughter takes her last breath. Then they finally get on track, and someone from Jairus' household comes and says, "It's too late. Don't bother the teacher anymore. Your daughter has died." Can you imagine? But Jesus assures Jairus that he doesn't need to be afraid, that his daughter would be saved, and so they continued on to his home. And when they arrive, everyone's weeping, and Jesus is like, she's not dead. She's only sleeping. And Jesus takes the girl by the hand and tells her to get up, and she does. And I find the intertwining of these two stories fascinating because you and I tend to classify things in terms of importance, right? Urgency. Jairus has an urgent matter. The woman with the issue of chronic illness has lived for 12 years. But Jesus isn't bound by urgency or anyone else's timeline in this story, and it's kind of annoying depending on who you are in this story. He seems to believe that there is time enough for both healings and that both healings are important. And I say this because sometimes you and I can feel like we need to prioritize the things that we request of God. Is it urgent? Is it someone else's need? That's definitely more important. But what if Jesus says there's time enough for all of it? The chronic things that we struggle with from day to day, and the urgent things in our lives and in the lives of the people that we love. There are several stories in the gospel where Jesus shows up later than people would like, right? And as a type A person, which my husband can attest to already again today, right? That's really annoying. Always late. In Britt's family, they call it detain time. And I have married into detain time. And Jesus seems to have Jesus time, where Jesus just strolls in, right? Long after people needed him to show up. And Jesus is like, there's enough time for it still, even now. And in each of these stories, Jesus defies the odds and brings healing and new life. And in the Christian faith, this belief in resurrection, this belief in the impossible idea of dead things coming back to life is one of the most outrageous and beautiful things that I think we believe in our faith. For us to believe that God can work long after we think all hope is lost, long after things have gone past that point of no return, that's crazy faith. But what if some of the things we think are dead, past the point of no return, are, as what Jesus would say, only sleeping? What if God can still provide some sort of healing and resurrection long after we think that it's possible? From what we can see in the story, sometimes that process is a long one. A woman waited 12 years for her healing. And sometimes the healings or the resurrections are swift and unbelievable, as such was with the case of the young girl. But what both journeys have in common is faith. The faith of a woman who had been chronically ill for 12 years, and the faith of his father for his daughter. Which means that some of our pathways to healing will require immense faith from us, both in the short and long term. And sometimes it's our loved ones, our family, or our community who will have the faith for us. And I want to be real with you all, because sometimes the things that we desire may not be healed on our timeline or even on this side of life. Because sometimes our resurrection is new life after this life. Because on the other side of this life, we are ushered into a healed world that is whole and peaceful, a place where death can no longer reach ourselves or the ones that we love. Friends, I don't know what hurts. I don't know what it is that you long for healing from, for yourself, or for the ones that you love. But I do believe God does. And I do believe God cares because you are worthy and because God says that God has the time. So may each of us be filled with faith for the healing journey ahead. Amen.
Okay, well, I just wanted to talk about a time that I felt healed emotionally. Well, for a long time, especially like a year ago, like I was going through a lot of things from my dad passing to some legal issues that were meant to destroy me, but didn't succeed. But at the time that I was going through it, it's really hard to tell someone when you have an ankle bracelet, no matter how fabulous you are, that it's not like, hey, this is just the law being extra special on, extra special people. This isn't my destiny. And unfortunately, even though there were times that it was not all bad, a lot of me wanted to give up. I wasn't just getting to the next day. And that's when I want to talk about the healing, that I opened up myself. Usually I try to be so strong by myself to just take care of everything and not let people know what's going on, because I have to be able to take care of myself. And I know that the desire to just survive has gone. It was lifted from me. I don't know exactly when. I know that I kept doing the right things and praying, and even though it seemed like all was lost, I was able to pull through. And I like what Tiffany was saying about how it doesn't come in the time, because I just remember so many times that like desire to want something different and being like, okay, God, like people are really thinking that I'm this evil person and I'm in the homeless shelter. How can I tell people that it's just my family and not that I'm left by everyone? So, my days nowadays, like, I'm not gonna ever make any effort to try to stop what I have going, stop my life, even though that was such a big part when I was going through this. Oh, I'm so nervous. But basically I just, I'm thankful for God, I'm thankful for the Fringe, I'm thankful for the community, because I really have a place to be when some might say that I shouldn't. And being able to take back the reins of life has been really amazing. To be able to do things, I'm focused on health, I'm focused on trying to get healthier, to really truly thrive, not just live. And I accept the things that I've gone through, and I'm in therapy now regularly. I have family, Karma, and my dog and cat. And so, I mean, things have gotten better. It's a lot simpler, but I'm so thankful I'm not where I was. That was such a dark place to be. And without the realization that I needed support, there would be no healing. So I'm really thankful, and that's really what I have to say.
At this time, we like to invite people to reflect and respond to what they have heard. One of the things that we would love to introduce prior to that is a little bit of a dance interpretive movement. I don't know how we want to title this, Molly. But
improv. I'll be making it up on the spot.
Improv, I love it. So Molly's sharing her gifts with our community to give us one more way to contemplate and just be a part of all that we're hearing and figure out what God might have for us here tonight.
can do it to this.
You might have just went to sleep. Different way. Big thanks to Carmen and Molly for sharing tonight. I appreciate it. So I want us to take some time to reflect and respond to the text, to the dance, to the stories that we've heard tonight. You can do that in several different ways. You can visit the worship stations that are set up. You can listen and sing along to the music. There's a communion station set up over here. Here at the Fringe, we believe that God invites all people to God's table. And that when we partake in communion, we remember Jesus, his death, and our connection to God and each other. You're invited to this table if you have a lot of faith, or if you wish you had more. You're invited to this table if you come often, or you've never been before. You're invited to this table if you have tried to follow Jesus and if you feel like you failed. And you're invited to come to this table because God invites you and wants you there. Our communion elements are grape juice and gluten-free bread for those who may have some dietary restrictions. There's a prayer station back over here by the brick fireplace. Perhaps you have something on your mind that you wish would change, would heal, would happen, something that you just want to say to God. You can use the pens and papers and markers there to write or to draw your prayer. You can tuck it into the prayer wall facing outward if you want folks to join you in praying for that thing, facing inward if you don't. I will collect those at the end of this evening and just promise to pray for that thing for this next week until we gather together again. There is a reaching station. So you're invited to contemplate what is it you're reaching for. Is it healing in your body, your heart, a relationship, for peace, for someone that you love? I invite you to gently touch the hems of the garments that are hung kind of over the movable wall here. And then there are strips of fabric that I invite you to write down what that thing is and then place them in those baskets there on the table. Just as an offering, as a prayer of saying, I'm reaching out and I am trying to connect with you, God, on this thing. And then we have prayers in action, because we don't do thoughts and prayers at the Fringe. So the prayer and action station over here, you're invited to light a candle and say a prayer for Minneapolis and for all the communities who are affected and experiencing unrest and trauma because of the current administration. And then you're invited to take action in a few ways. So there are QR codes. One is more national, so it brings you to a link to connect with your congressperson. It also will give you phone numbers, so leave that screen open if you're someone who's willing to make those phone calls. They mean a lot. And then there is a QR code that goes to Sanctuary Alliance, which is our local group here in Lawrence. That's really leading the charge on equipping folks to know how to stand up for the immigrants and folks in our community. What does that look like? And who help to provide alerts to immigrant families in our community as well. So takes you to their Facebook page so you can just get involved, follow them, figure out what's happening. They're doing community trainings. And they're connected with groups that provide funds for legal counsel for folks here in Lawrence. So ICE has always been here, right? But just what we're seeing is just so massive. But this group is always working for the rights of people in our community. So while the music plays, feel free to sing along. You can visit one, all, or none of the stations. This time is for you to decide how you want to respond and reflect. So thank you all for joining together in this.
Can I speak to you?
make some more space? Can I speak to the architect? This life that we make is a random or fate. Can I speak to the architect? Is there an
headed to our gathering song here at the end, Crowded Table. This is one of our favorites.
Sweet.
close our time together with a blessing. May we go out tonight knowing that we are loved and seen by God. May we have faith that God will meet us on our journey towards healing, and that when we don't have faith, that God will provide us with friends and loved ones and community who will have it for us. Amen.